I think McGilchrist kind of shakes us up.
This is the best philosophical work in the last 200 years.
Yeah,
is what he said.
I think that's exactly right. And some people are very much still in this mechanistic worldview. It's an old worldview.
Holy crap. Maybe the world is way more spiritual, and maybe the scientific revolution that has now landed in the 21st century needs to rethink spirituality.
There is a paradigm shift coming. Thinking that the world is just a machine of particles banging against each other that you can map out with certainty is at the end of its life.
Kia ora koutou and welcome to Lunch on the Way. And today is the return of Jonathan Hoskin, who is a founding member of Lunch on the Way podcast. He was last on in January of this year, took a little bit of a hiatus, and is now back for this conversation around what does it mean to be secular and what is the sacramentality of the world all about. If you're somebody who's wondering, how did this world become so deeply secular, and what does that actually mean, and how do I re-enchant or reimagine what the Bible just assumes as a sacramentality of the world, this is the conversation for you. It was a good one. And what we do in this conversation is we look at the origins of how the Western world became deeply secular through looking at a little bit of Charles Taylor, A Secular Age. And then we really spent a lot of time talking about this monumental book called The Matter with Things by Iain McGilchrist. It is in 2 volumes, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And he reopens the conversation as to what is the world really? And I'll give you a hint. He basically, as an agnostic philosopher, breaks open this idea that the world is flat, but it's actually deeply spiritual. And this is arguably one of the most significant philosophical books of the last 200 years. But we have a Christian conversation and a Christian theological conversation around the implications of this book and how your world, the world that you and I live in, can be way more sacramental than you realize. Anyway, here's that conversation with Jonathan Hoskin. Prodigal son has returned today.
Yeah, so good to have you back. Just to have a conversation, but apart from the podcast,
hopefully I haven't been eating out of troughs and cohorting with
I don't know what you are trying to say.
Okay, good, because I was like, please someone pull me out of that conversation.
You know what? I'll tell you what, Jonathan. We've started, okay?
Oh, have we?
I'll tell you what.
Hang on. Okay, I'm listening.
It's
I'm
great.
also just multitasking.
I get it. We've interviewed some great people. The last time you were on was in January, and we had, who did we have on? We had... Oh, that's my microphone. My bad. This is Graham's microphone. There we go. We had on, Mark Sayers, Andrew Root, which was cool. We've done a lot more interviews in the past because you told us, you said, you know what, guys, I think I need to take a break from the podcast.
I did.
And so Graham and I are like, well, we'll miss you because we do have great conversations and they just flow. Yeah. And with all the great conversations we have had in interviews in person here in this little studio, nothing compares.
Hey!
Nothing compares, Jonathan, to talking with you.
Because everyone else comes prepared and not willing to say silly things. Well, but here I am.
Well, I think you know what I've really appreciated now that you've been gone. If for those who are listening, because this will probably be published like 2 or 4 weeks after the fact. Yeah. It's October. Last time Jonathan was on was in January of 2025.
Is that right?
It's been pretty well the full calendar year, like school year at least, right?
Okay. Oh, is it really?
Yeah,
That's a long time, man.
And
you guys look exactly the same. It's awesome.
Well, so do you.
Yeah, you haven't aged at all.
And what I love about our conversations is they just flow. But honestly, when I look back at them, I'm like, it does feel like we're just learning from Jonathan. I feel like we're just sitting at your feet as the disciple.
Well, I find the space is formational. That's just what we were talking about before we came on camera. It's like I've been thinking about this, and then you sort of gently push back, and then we tease it out a bit more, and then my thinking makes another little leap, and I'll go back and think about it more. So I personally kind of feel I need that sort of interaction.
Man, don't we all? Yeah. Exactly.
But with all that being said, we missed you, and because you're kind of like the star in all of our conversations, because we're just like, wow, Jonathan, how are you thinking like that, or how do you know to ask that question? Today you're in the hot seat. Today you are our guest today.
Well, that's what you think.
Right? All right. Yeah. And so we have a couple books here. We have a few books on the table. We have 2 books in particular, or volumes of one book, The Matter with Things.
I never got through this.
Iain McGilchrist, and then we have A Secular Age, which is by Charles Taylor.
Did you get through that?
I got through a Secular Age.
I've never read it. I've read the condensed version, which is James Smith
the
one,
James Smith
which
one.
is easy, accessible.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be critical. I read his.
So much better.
It's too simplified.
It's
too simple. You've got to I think Charles Taylor, he purposefully wrote it that big and that nuance because what you focus on is very different. Like I'll focus on different aspects of that book than other people. So James K. Smith clearly looked at it through a particular lens. Where I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm like that. Those weren't my takeaways.
Oh, interesting.
And anyway, so anyway,
have you got onto his second book? He's put out another one.
No, I haven't.
No,
his last one, because
he's like 98.
And he
Re-enchantment.
He makes a leap. Not a leap, but have you read it?
No.
Well, a colleague in Australia, because I did some stuff over in Australia, and I mentioned I was reading Charles Taylor, and he said, "Have you read this book?" And then he did his little presentation out of the book. So he turns to poetry and to the more spirit mystical.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Which is okay.
It's a book that I will get, but Charles Taylor is not an easy piece to read.
No,
he's not, is he?
So we've got these books on the table because we're going to see where this conversation goes, but we've initially framed it as why does the world feel so flat within a modern Western understanding of the world, and what does it actually mean for the world to be sacramental, which is probably more aligned with a biblical understanding, or at least assumptions.
Right.
And so to kind of frame it out, I actually preached on this 2 weeks ago.
Oh, give us an overview.
It was way too complicated to preach on a Sunday morning, to be honest.
Okay.
You're a brave man.
But it was. I didn't want to get too intense because I think I probably would have pushed it further than I would feel comfortable on a Sunday morning. Like I'm actually farther along than what I actually presented and what I preached on. But essentially what I said was there's this flattening of the world that's taken place. Charles Taylor, hence why we have the book on it, he kind of maps that out a little bit from a pre-modern to a modern to a postmodern take on the world, where the physical and the spiritual are divided and they're not seen as one and the same in a sense. And so essentially what I said, I used a metaphor to kind of hold it all together. And I said to the congregation, I said, well, a modern way of looking at the world is like you're looking at the wall.
Right.
What is the wall pointing to or mediating? Mm-hmm. Itself.
Right.
It's pointing to and it's mediating itself.
Right.
It's not pointing anywhere else. If anything, I guess you could extrapolate saying, okay, there's a roof, maybe, or something. But what you see within the frame is what it is. It's a wall. I said, well, what does a window mediate and point to?
Right.
Well, it points beyond itself, but also you can see the window, and the window is like a veil by which you can then see, or a veil might be a bad way, but it's a lens by which you can see the world differently, and you can see a massive vista. And so that was kind of the framing of, well, if the wall is all you see, then of course you don't expect to encounter God in the world. But if the world's a window, then of course you should fully anticipate encountering God in His grace in the world in a meaningful and significant way. And I said, for some of you today, you're like, no duh, Joey. That's like the most plain, simple thing in the world. But I'm like, no, I'm stating it like that because for some of us, we actually walk throughout our everyday lives with this public and private spiritual divide, this physical spiritual divide, where we don't see that God is at work in the world in ways that He's maybe at work within this small little slither of a week called Sunday morning or a youth group on an evening. Yeah. But we do encounter God in the world, and many of you have encountered God in the world. You just don't know what to do with that and how to actually understand the world differently as a result of that.
Yep.
And I said, that's what I mean by the world is deeply sacramental, is the world's a window, not a wall.
That's good enough.
That's really good.
So, Jonathan, how
good.
the heck did we get to a point where I even have to preach a sermon like that?
Well, yeah.
Why do I even need to say that? It seems like so self-evident as Christians. This is like, what's going on? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Wait, can I just ask, are the Methodists...
Are we what?
Are they sacramental?
John Wesley, if we talk about the sacraments of the baptism and the Eucharist, of those two, John Wesley was a means of grace kind of guy. Okay. It wasn't pure symbol, and not pure symbol, but like it wasn't just you can use Coke and crackers. He's not like that kind of guy.
Okay.
He's like, no, I want to take the Lord's Supper as often as possible because there's something that happens in this material, physical thing.
He's a mixture, John Wesley, as he's stepped into.
Yeah, he's a bit of East Orthodox thinker as well.
He is,
and so we've kind of received that tradition.
Yep.
But I think the functionality of evangelical Protestantism and being within a secular age that we live in has kind of flattened that quite a bit, and you just kind of need to
I think
re-enchant it a bit.
Yeah.
So what's been your, like, is that your default? Are you just like, sacramental world? Do you feel that gravitational pull towards like this flattening of reality?
Yeah, I feel the pull towards a sacramental world, and I would love to live in that world.
You want to live in a pre-modern world, do you?
Well, not a pre-modern world. Not a pre-modern world. No, just a sacramental world. But getting back to that is incredibly hard because that is
what
just.
What would that look like for you?
I don't know. I actually don't know what it would look like every day. I think the place to start would probably be the Eucharist, and let it spill out from there. But I don't know what that would look like. Because I'm deeply secular, and I know that about myself, and it's really hard, and I wrestle with it the whole time.
Okay,
what's secularism?
Let's just stop.
So
ask you, because for our audience, if you said I'm deeply secular, the question is, well, tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of have to go back to the 16th, 17th, 18th century, where kind of secularism really started to take root. So in the ages of what they call the Enlightenment, scientific revolution, leading into kind of like modern humanism. And that was when people started to, scientific revolution is when the world started to look, people started to say the world, the material world is just inert. It's just has nothing of God in it. It is kind of just dead material. And on top of that, it's just particles. It's just stuff, right? It's no longer sacramental at all. It's just stuff that we can manipulate and make and do whatever we want with.
It's predictable.
It's predictable.
Ordered.
Yeah, give me the language for this.
God may have done something, but he doesn't do anything now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. And Enlightenment was kind of going back to, we just need to think this through, so it's very rationalistic. What we can do as human beings becomes the kind of marker of everything. The world isn't given to us by someone else. It's ours to dominate. So that's one of the things.
That we now no longer stand in, we stand over. Out.
Yeah,
and over.
And over. Out and over it.
Which is a jump,
exactly
isn't
right.
it?
It's a huge move.
Yeah.
And of course this took place over hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And
with elites first typically, and then it kind of disseminated down from there.
That's exactly right.
From
and
it's from the elites, people who had money, time, and think, and to fantasize of a new kind of way of understanding the world.
And it's a complicated picture because the church is involved in this too. Some of the key players in the scientific revolution are Christians.
Yes.
So it's not to say that the scientific revolution and Enlightenment thinking is all bad. And in fact, it can be very Christian. But there are certain parts of those thinkers started to see that we can actually do without God. The world's here, it's ours. We don't need God to understand it anymore. We don't need God to say what it is, and we don't need to treat it sacramentally. So there started to be a divide, and that gives rise to the secular society. Yeah.
And it wasn't just a scientific or a material divide; it was political as well.
Oh,
I mapped out in my sermon. I mapped out very briefly, how Martin Luther really kicked off the secular move in a way.
He did,
because he questioned the authority of the Pope, and in doing that, he had political backing to do that as well.
That's right.
And then different state churches or churches within countries like the German Church, the Swiss Church, Norway, Sweden. England, Church of England, all of them began to pop up as autonomous away from the Catholic Church. And then you had political violence as a result of who was ruling and who was Catholic or who was Protestant.
Yes.
And so what that created was people then wanted to get the heck out of there and do this wonderful secular move called the separation of church and state as a result of political violence. And so when that move happened in the U.S. first, it's not that they weren't Christian. It's that they wanted to remove politics from Christianity, not the other way around. They wanted to take the political arm away from the church so as not to corrupt the church and for people to die. And then as a result of that, you had the Declaration of Independence, and then democracy, the sovereignty move shifted from the king or queen being sovereign and it was God, then king and queen, then priest, cleric, monk, all the way down, merchant, whatever. And after that move, it was then we the people are sovereign. So that's where the twist of us above the world came into play there. And then the French Revolution took it one step further, where they not only kicked out the king and killed him and his family, but they also kicked out God too, well, symbolically in a moment. But God, the Catholic Church stayed within France, but not institutionally really at all. And so they became the first properly secular or atheist kind of nation within their independence and declaration.
There's, of course, other threads to this too.
There's a lot of threads here.
Because I don't think it's kind of one. I think there's another one, which is we are led into this because the ability to actually administer a state requires the printed text.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. This is
No, I'm not just saying, but that's one. That's another piece. That the operation of state power, the king, the divine right of king. That makes sense. But if you have, and it seeps in subtly, the ability to document, administrate by being able to have documents and printing documents and all of that. The literacy goes. You now don't need. You can actually divest power into.
Well, you're absolutely right. And so that technological shift, because Martin Luther wouldn't have been able to do what he did if it wasn't for the print. Right. And to be honest, we wouldn't be able to push the secular move of separating the physical from the spiritual and seeing ourselves above material things. We wouldn't be able to continue to perpetuate ourselves through that if it actually wasn't for digital technology as well. Because the digital is like a complete separation of like you can just impose your will to infinity on these devices.
Well, actually, I think there's a twist there too, because I think actually the digital moves us back into an enchanted world again.
Okay.
Because, what was my argument here? Because actually it pushes us back into an acoustic structured world. And if you say, what do you mean by that? Well, indigenous cultures live in an acoustic structured world. The world is enchanted because actually it's everything from everywhere at any point in time. I can't hold it. It's moving. It's not static. It's not linear anymore. It's not sequential anymore.
And I think we kind of saw
space
that.
And time shift.
We saw that on steroids a little bit with, we won't go into it at all, with Charlie Kirk and that assassination. It was everywhere all the time, not linear, and you're just like inundated, and you're just like, it's just like a swell, and you're just like, whoa, it's everywhere.
My question to that one, the kind of oral culture, is that today, the difference is today, it's our voices that it's just it's human voices that are just running around the room. So before that, in the pre-modern world, it would have been that God's voice would have been, or the God's voices would have been a part of that. They weren't something for us to control. So the difference is that we just listen to each other.
Okay, so democratization of the voice.
Well, I'd say it's an echo chamber again of this kind of modern humanism, where we're just listening to each other and just getting fed up with each other.
That's
and warring against each other. We're in the pre-modern. There's a different element involved, and that would have been God's voice, but we've moved God's voice out of the gods, depending on where you're at.
I'm trying to think of outside of our Anglophone culture or Western culture, or say Maori culture. You would have had the tohunga, the priest, who carried those mythical stories.
Exactly.
Told those mythical stories, would have filled the imagination with. Whereas our imagination is filled with YouTube.
Exactly. Two things there. One of the shifts in that 300-year period, the 16th, 17th, 18th century, is that the world came to be viewed as a mechanism. And today you start to see the pushback on that. Well, some people haven't. Some people are very much still in this mechanistic worldview. They love it so much
because you can control it and predict it.
It's an old worldview. And it's a
very transactional worldview. Isn't
it? Transactional.
It's a bad metaphor.
But the thing is, the world is not a mechanism. It's an organism. And so. And again, we're coming back to metaphors here and how we attention ourselves towards the world.
And of course, it plays out biology, in the way we behave.
That's right.
It's playing into the way we behave.
I mean, modern physics has understood this for decades, that the world is not a mechanism, that it's an organism. And biology is catching on to this too. And McGilchrist talks about this deeply, about how it moves from a mechanistic worldview, where it's just particles banging against each other, to a state of flow and a state of flux. Now that's more relational. It's more in keeping with what we are as organic beings. Because the difficulty with mechanistic worldviews is that we start to see ourselves as mechanistic, part of the robot, part of the machine. Yeah.
This is the whole thing around the AI conversation that I think people are forgetting about, because the metaphors that we use deeply encourage us to predict the future in a particular way.
That's right. And therefore it's nihilistic.
Yeah. So this whole thing about like, oh, we're just going to like attach AI onto the human brain because, AI is just code. And really, when we think about it, our brains are just code,
codes
right?
Are code. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, no, that's actually that's not what brains are.
Yeah.
And so you might be able to do something with a connection, but I don't think you're going to be. You've made a fatal flaw in that metaphor.
That's
it's like, then what literally is the brain? I'm like, well, you can't literally understand it. You can only understand it through metaphor.
Yeah.
So you need to get a metaphor that aligns more closely with what is actually happening.
Yeah. So this is the basis of the materialistic worldview, where we come back to the kind of scientific revolution, where everything is just dead matter.
Yeah.
And so the brain too is just dead matter that suddenly somehow miraculously started to think about itself.
Yeah.
And the question you have to ask to the materialistic worldview is, how did that happen? Can't answer it.
But even that notion of the brain as the brain, the brain is only the brain because it lives within the context of a body.
Right.
I mean, it's
that
not,
too. Exactly
it's not
right.
apart from.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another interesting one too. It's
exactly.
How do you understand a brain? Well, a brain is because it's part of a head, and a head is part of a body.
That's
it's
right.
part of a world. So it's
which is part of a world, though. Exactly right.
So let's just recap a little bit as we kind of move through this.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, one thing,
Sorry.
and then I'll recap.
Yeah. The other part of the Luther, which is what. Now, he didn't mean to do this. I'm not saying that Luther meant to do this, but the outcome of this is that the sola fide, that faith alone is your relationship with God, totally broke with the medieval church, which was about beauty, and beauty is always sacramental. So what you can do when faith alone is that you can have an individual private relationship with God. So it's just it depends on your faith alone makes your relationship with God. And then what tends to happen is that we become individualized, and we don't need beauty, we don't need the sacramental world anymore, because it's just about what I believe.
Well, you don't need the sacraments anymore.
That's right. So nothing's
it turns inward.
It turns inward because God isn't mediated to us through the material world anymore.
Yeah, and that's what Charles Taylor mentions that he calls the secular turn. Or the subjective turn.
That's right. And you see this get played out over hundreds of years through the churches. So the churches got rid of the stained glass windows. They just became boxes.
Yeah.
You didn't need anything like that. Where the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, didn't follow Luther, of course.
No.
So their places of worship remain incredibly beautiful. And there's a move towards in the world saying we need to move back to beauty, because beauty is a sacramental material.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that notion of beauty can never be, in one sense, they're tied together with what is true.
That's right.
And what is good.
And they're
in a frame of it is love.
Exactly right. And they're embodied.
Yeah.
They make sense of the whole world for us.
What you're not
it's
saying,
not transactional.
Yeah.
It's deeply embodied faith.
Would it be true to say that what you're not saying is that faith is unimportant and beauty is what mediates salvation? That's not necessarily what you're saying.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah.
So
those two, they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
Yeah.
So we love the world because we have faith in God.
Yeah.
We don't just have faith in God and do whatever we want with the world.
So you've already touched on it a little bit, and I won't do a summry at this point.
Oh, you could.
It's all good.
Yep.
I'll maybe do one later.
Yep.
For our listener, because we've kind of just zipped through some
We
hefty
have.
stuff.
I got so many notes here, but we've gone crazy.
And feel free to weave them through. But practically speaking, how has this shift from a sacramental understanding of the world to material understanding impacted modern Christians? You've already alluded to that through, the beautification of the faith is kind of diminished. Practically speaking, quite a few Protestant churches see the sacraments as like, man, this is just like as symbolic as like any other symbol in the world. It's not, it's like, it just represents, not actually is the body of Christ. It represents the body of Christ.
Yeah.
And so that's a practical thing. But have you noticed anything else that shift has taken place within, like where people can say, oh yeah, I noticed that too, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And is that because of secularism?
I mean, the one that jumps out to me is progress.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get rid of a sacramental point of view, you get rid of that God is working through history. and he's working. So we need to look back to in order to kind of look forward. And what we tend to do is just cut off history at all, look back at how God has been revealing himself to us through time, and just say the secular worldview got it right, and we just need to build upon that. So I don't know if that's kind of the one that jumps out at me.
The history one's a good one.
What jumps out at you?
Well, because the history one, if we go within church, it's tradition.
Exactly.
Right? So it's basically, so many Protestant Christians, or at least churches, they see church history as, Jesus, maybe the Old Testament, but we don't understand it too much. Jesus, death, resurrection, Pentecost, fast forward to Martin Luther, and then after that, if we're lucky enough to go to Martin Luther, then we'll go to maybe some modern revival stuff that's happened because of the Spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's kind of church history. And then it's like, well, no, like your faith, yes, you might have faith in God, and that's important, that matters. There is that individual aspect to Christianity that is important, that Jesus understands is important, hence why he called people and individuals to himself. Yeah. But it's swept up within a context and within a tradition. Yeah. And within a container. Yeah. And so it's not just about you. Yep. Therefore, your new thought that you have today about the Christian faith, you need to be in conversation, or at least be aware of how that plays out within the whole swath of Christian history.
Could you say, I mean, I'm thinking of a metaphor here that kind of lands this, is the notion that Christian faith is a remembering faith.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as I'm thinking about that,
reminds me of Deuteronomy. Reminds me of Deuteronomy.
Yeah, the remembering faith. But it's interesting how history is. So in one sense, because a passage of scripture that comes to mind is the Hebrews 12. Mm-hmm. You know, that you've got the 11.
Right.
And you've got the 12. We're surrounded by these great hosts of witnesses that have gone before us. So in one sense, time is linear, but it's also time brought into present. It's a really, it's not just linear. No. It's not just remembering that happened here, but it's also time playing into the present. Is that? So that's when I would think about a remembering faith. I think it's doing some interesting moves.
I think of what Augustine said here. Sorry, now that we touch on time, when he says, when I think about time, I know exactly what it is. And when someone asks me to explain it, I have no idea what it is. So, exactly right. What's time?
So
you're right. You're right.
Am I on the right track there?
I think so. Because, I mean, there's a habit inside of some churches that Christians just become entrepreneurs. What's the next thing that we can make? What's the next part of the kingdom we can build in? Forgetting that the kingdom is something that God is in control of. Thinking that's something that it's a remembering in many kind of ways. Entrepreneur just wants to push forward the whole time with your own ideas, your own stuff.
Because the kingdom,
how can we just build stuff better and stuff like that? It's not about that.
No.
It's about remembering.
Well, because the kingdom is a proclamation. Like one of the best books that I read that kind of refreshed or framed my thinking around the kingdom of God is George Eldon Ladd. Had a really tragic life. He's just a very troubled individual. Okay. Just had such a low view of himself in his academic work, but it was he had some significant
who's
work.
This, sorry?
George Eldon Ladd. Okay. He was at Fuller Seminary back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Okay.
It is a tragic life.
It is. Yeah. Anyway, we won't get into it. Read his biography. Biography. Anyway, so he basically mentioned, he's like, well, the church isn't the kingdom of God. So build the church in a sense, or Christ builds his church, but the kingdom of God is a reality that's happened as a result of Jesus' death, resurrection, and Pentecost, where there's a completely different thing going on here. And so all the church does is actually just proclaim. The church just points it out in the world and says, hey, if you want to use that metaphor again, you might be looking at a wall.
Right.
But the kingdom's here. You're looking through a window.
That's a good point.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
Yeah.
You just don't see it.
Yep.
Yeah. Just look over here.
When you say that, I think of Sermon on the Mount, and those passages, the Lord's Prayer, then those two metaphors that he plays with. Look at, so don't worry about tomorrow precedes that as the two metaphors and the creation metaphors. The lilies of the field. He clothes them, the birds of the air. He feeds them. So he's speaking about a reality. Of leaning into reality of actually the sovereignty of God.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah. So.
Where have you seen it?
Oh, yes. I was going to go to... So when we interviewed Andrew Root, we asked him, so what is secularism? Or no, sorry, I interviewed him. This interview isn't actually published yet.
Okay.
But I interviewed him for CFCL something or other. And because I says people see secularism as just simply Christian and non-Christian spaces. Like, we need to push back against secularism. It's like, no, that's not what it is. He said secularism is actually fragility of belief.
Okay.
So he takes so the very end of Taylor's book, he kind of basically says, where has this all led for the modern person now? And this is 2007, 8. He wrote this or published it, and he said that it's the fragility of belief. So if you were to ask a pre-modern person, or especially someone in Europe who's a Christian, do you believe in God? They'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's no. What do you mean belief?
Yeah.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the pre-modern world. Throughout all this secular shift, it's like you ask someone who's modern, do you believe in God? It's like, well, yeah, maybe I do. Well, I've been thinking about it a little bit. And so it's this fragility of like, I could believe something else. Like the thing that structures reality for me within my understanding of the world is fragile.
Yeah.
As a result of everything that's happened within the secular turn. Pre-modern person, it's like, hey, it's like a fish asking, hey, do you believe in water? Yeah. It's like, what are you talking about? If I don't believe in water, then nothing makes sense. Yeah. It's like, if I don't believe in God before in a pre-modern world, then the king and queen don't make sense. God doesn't make sense. Priests don't make sense. The church doesn't. My position in the world doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah. It's like it's an unquestioned identity issue.
I think that's right.
They didn't care about identity because it's just it is what it is. God gives you it.
Yep.
At your birth.
This makes sense in a story that I was watching last night, just on a YouTube clip, which was about these nuns in, I think, late 1400s. And so the Ottomans had taken them. This is sort of in the Greece area, I can't remember. And basically took these 22 nuns and then took them back to Istanbul, Constantinople, and the story of how they never reneged their faith. Right. And enormous, how would you call it, deprivation, all sorts of terrible stuff happened, but they never reneged their faith. Yeah. And you look at that, and from our perspective, you go, gosh, must have been something else. But it affirms this. The reality of their world was this is what it is. There's no why would you change? There's nothing to change it. So it's an interesting. It's where really, they lived in that context. We don't.
Yeah, it's really interesting
because I'm not sure what I would do.
Yeah, and and that makes me wonder what you were saying on that. Is that I think this secularism in many kind of ways has been going on for centuries because even Paul talks about shifting allegiances from one god to another god. So I think this is always going on. What makes secularism? I
can't even say it now.
Yeah, I can't say it now. It's one of those words. Yeah, but what makes it different is that you have the opportunity to have a world without any kind of God.
Without any.
Yeah. Which of course we know is a vacuum, and we become the God inside that world. But this has been going on for ages. So in many kind of ways, I mean, Paul is always calling us to repentance, which is metanoia, is a turning away from one way of seeing the world to another way of seeing the world. So I mean, I think this has been going on for a long time.
It's just that the nothing, or like the illusion that there's nothing.
Yeah. That's right.
Is the new thing.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the new shift.
Exactly
and
right.
And so we all feel that. It's just like there's a pull towards nothing, or there's a pull towards something that I'm now defining as true and real about the world. And what I love about what's happening now with this a subsection, I'll say, to be modest, of this younger generation, is that they're looking at all this with my generation, millennials, years, Gen X, and Boomer, being like, you guys defined everything and made up your own rules. That all doesn't make sense to me. Can I go to something older, please?
Yeah.
That predates you.
I think that's right.
And predates myself.
Yep.
So that's a shift.
Yep.
So if let's go
I think
back.
That's a shift.
So that's a little bit of Charles Taylor is what we talked about there. That's why hence why I have the book on the table. You probably can't see it right now because the camera's pointing at me. Not that, but anyway. Then we read. Some of us did.
Oh well, no, I'm back there. I haven't read as much as you, but I get sidetracked with other things. But
I'm just kidding. So I think Jonathan was the first one to get the book Iain McGilchrist, The Matter with Things, Volume 1 and 2 last Christmas, or just around last Christmas.
Oh man, I don't know.
Maybe a bit before.
Whenever I think
so. I ordered it around Christmas. I started reading it in January. I properly finished it in March. Very good book.
You read all two?
I read all two. I did skim one section because it's a bit of preamble from another book I've already read of his, just kind of framing his whole argument.
Yeah.
But the reason why this book is so important is because Iain McGilchrist is kind of indicative of this philosophical shift that's taking place within modern philosophy, and that has implications for everything. If you're listening to this right now and you're like, gonna go to the next podcast because modern philosophy. No, hold up. Everything, philosophy matters because it informs everything that you do, whether you know it or not. And so he's made a big shift. Where prior, we've already alluded to it, there's this mechanistic metaphor that is assumed within the world. And as a result of that, we then assume that you can do A, B, C, and D. You can assume things about God. You can cancel certain things out as irrelevant, like spiritual realities and things like that. McGilchrist says, from an empirical, and I'm going to use a technical term, phenomenological perspective, which basically means from just being in the world, living in the world. I'm not discerning this from external scripture or from revelation. He's like, I'm just looking at the world like a scientist, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think that the machine metaphor is a good one.
Yeah.
I believe that a better metaphor is at hand, which is a flow, a stream, turbulence, if you will, that there's a level of unpredictability in the world that's not necessarily cause and effect mechanistic, and that there could have been an alternative world to the one that we've received. I won't get too complicated because he makes a very complicated argument around that. But what this leads him to conclude as an agnostic, I would still say he's agnostic because he just doesn't know.
Oh, he is.
He's a deeply agnostic British philosopher. What this has led him to conclude is that, holy crap, maybe the world is way more spiritual than my younger self would have liked to imagined. And maybe the scientific revolution that has now landed in the 21st century needs to rethink spirituality from an empirical, scientific, phenomenological perspective, because he does not even point to scripture.
Yeah.
He doesn't point to anything else except for what he can measure and know about the world. And so I don't want to get too much into it because I'll take too much time up. But he begins everything by basically looking at the person and how people are structured as left brain and right brain people. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm more of a right brain person. Oh, I'm more of a left brain person. What he's basically saying is that your left brain, the left hemisphere of your brain, is analytical, it's dissecting. It's basically, think the scientific revolution, think secularism, dividing of things and understanding their parts apart from the whole. That's the left brain thinking, which has produced many amazing things in society. But now most people default in that direction.
And which is needed, by the way.
Which is needed.
Yeah, he's doesn't demonize it.
He's not demonizing it, but he's saying that in his previous book, The Master and His Emissary, that the right hemisphere can see the whole. So the big metaphor that he uses is, well, a master or a king has an emissary who gets all the things done. But the emissary, they believe and they begin to think that they know more than the king or the master, because they're the ones actually doing the stuff. And so they begin to, maybe usurp the authority of the king. But the king is like, hold on a second. You're only seeing what I'm allowing you to see. I can see the whole kingdom.
Yep.
And you can only see a slither. I need you, but you need me more than I need you, is essentially the argument he's making. So this right hemisphere of the brain holds together the whole of reality within our understanding of the world. And it's actually there that he begins his big argument of saying the world is much more mysterious and deeply spiritual than our left hemisphere thinking would like to admit.
Yeah. And also, and I'd add to that, the whole can give meaning to everything. So when you just focus in on the parts, how does it connect? What does it mean for me? Like, does it have any meaning other than just being a material world? Does my life then, in the end, have any meaning? And you cannot understand that, and you can't grab that unless you understand the whole picture of why it's here in the first place.
Yeah,
where it's going.
And I guess the
science doesn't answer that.
We make the move, make that assumption, the move that the single part can be understood as a single part.
Exactly,
and
isolated,
build our presuppositions, and assumptions on that, which does deliver some things, but actually it also is foiled, it's problematic.
That's right. And there's this huge metaphor that McGilchrist picks up on, is that we're living in a world that has mistaken the map for the terrain.
Yeah, explain that a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've heard it so many times. We have a map now to understand everything about what the world is about.
Yeah,
we've mapped it out, and so we're done. We're pretty much done. We know everything.
Yeah,
and
I can go Google Maps right now and tell you where this is.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
right.
Yeah,
but it becomes a methodology, and this is where it becomes incredibly dangerous, where you start to put everyone on the map that you've constructed. They're just another little part that I just place on my map.
Yeah.
That's incredibly dangerous stuff, because you start to objectify everybody. You start to treat everyone like parts, and you start to treat them like just meaningless material objects on your map. And what you've done is you have not understood that the map is not real. The terrain is real.
Yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
That is something you're embedded in.
We need to tease that out more.
Yeah,
that is so important.
Do you want to give us some?
Well, because I'm just going to echo what you said.
Yep.
Because the map, what we forget, and so people who are really driven, let's just say you're a business entrepreneur type person.
Yep.
People who are very driven, they see a map of the world and a destination that they want to go to,
yep.
and they believe that map of the world and the destination they want to go to is the map.
Yeah.
There's no other map.
Yeah.
And everyone else along the journey of this destination helps me get to where I need to go via my map.
Yep.
The thing is that map can look very different from person to person to person to person to person. So then how do you know whose map is correct?
Yeah.
This is where it goes to, well, the map is just a figure or a symbol that's helpful.
That's helpful.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
But it's a figure and a symbol of the terrain. Where's the terrain? The terrain is in the world that you and I all live in together.
That's right.
And so that's the big shift that he's basically saying.
Yeah.
He's not saying that your subjective sense of the world is nothing.
No.
But he's neither saying that there's no such thing as objectivity either, meaning there's no such thing as truth and absolutes and moral reason and morality.
No.
He's not saying either of those things. He's saying there's what, Jonathan? Like this interplay?
Well, a relationship between the two.
Relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A relationship. And a real relationship, not a critical one where we just need to kind of try and understand it better. No, we are truly already in a relationship, and we need to listen to how we're engaging with each other. The truth will come out of those interactions, not out of our kind of presuppositions about those. We need to keep on asking ourselves, is this really correct of the reality that I'm actually living in? That's the question that we need to keep on asking.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, how would you be able to articulate that better?
No, that was very good.
Yeah.
This is, I'll tell you what, it's 2 volumes, as you can see here. It's a hefty book.
Do I not need to read it now?
No, you don't need to read it. You know,
I'm about up to kind of here.
You could have just asked ChatGPT to
exactly.
And it probably would have done a good job. But so you're like, so why this obscure book, Joey? And aren't you Christian? This guy's agnostic. No, what's really helpful about him, well, he doesn't get everything right from a Christian revelatory, scriptural, even tradition perspective. He doesn't. What he does is he's in a sense scientifically re-enchanting the world on a sacramental level.
Yeah.
I don't know if he uses that term sacramental. He maybe alludes to it.
Yeah.
But he admits that there's a re-enchanting of the world that even he had a particular map of the world, and then when he started to live life and get into the terrain of the world, he realized that the map that he had constructed or received was helpful, and he obviously got to where he was in life currently, but it maybe didn't describe everything about what's really going on in the world.
Yeah.
And so he does a lot of toing and froing in his last chapter about like, what does this spirituality of the world mean? I don't really like the last chapter, to be honest, because it's just like, it doesn't, he's like saying nothing when he says everything for me, because it's in the wrestling. He's like, I think if he's being honest, he's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what is actually going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can, but I know something's going on.
Yep.
Yeah. What are you going to say?
I think you're right. A couple of things. I don't think he sees the world of sacramental, because sacramental implies that there's something beyond our material world.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah.
So
right.
he thinks the spiritual part of our world is. He kind of takes a flat plane view, not in a reductionist view. He wants to break open the reduction that there's only the material world, but he wants to say no. There's something at play here that can't be found inside of our kind of scientific mindset. Like it plays like love or care for things that science doesn't really tell us why that's there. But he'll only keep it at that level. He's just saying, that's more mysterious. The material world's more mysterious than we knew. But the sacramental implies that there's something actually beyond our world that's breaking into our world. So he would not go that far.
No.
Because then I think you have to posit that there's a God that actually probably
what does he do
made this world.
Because he's a materialist, but not in its previous understanding
That's
of the sense
right.
of no spirituality. He's a materialist in the sense of, all there is materiality. But the materiality is much more mysterious than we realize.
Yeah, so in that sense, he's more Buddhist.
Yes.
Like I think he'd be more Buddhist kind of thinking.
Yeah. So the notion of transcendence is like it's contained within.
It's contained within.
Yeah,
yeah,
is
that's
kind
right.
Of interesting.
And he has he has ideas about that God is in the making. So he had that kind of thinking that God is. That God has been made at the same time that the world has been made.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't say that. We'd say that God's outside of the world, but inside the world too. So, you know.
He's like, he is being itself.
Yeah, that's right.
And so as a result, he's not bound by our being.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be helpful to our listeners because I think you sent us, particularly listeners that would find this kind of almost like pushing it away.
Right.
So I think you sent me a recommendation by Rowan Williams. Can you remind us of that?
Can you? Who's Rowan Williams? And then kind of why did you send that to us?
So
initially?
Rowan, he's an Anglican theologian. He was the Archbishop of Canterbury, so he's been at the top of the Anglican Church. But he's a really good thinker.
Yeah.
And so he had a conversation with Iain McGilchrist and goes with him pretty much the whole way until the question of the sacramentality of the world.
Yeah.
Is there something beyond this world? Where Williams would say yes, and McGilchrist say not so sure.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty much it. Basically,
but he did make that kind of these two books were significant books.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, makes quite a big statement. What was
absolutely.
It? I mean, what was it? It was
I can't quite remember.
I think it was
you
either
might
100 years or 200 years.
No, he said this is the best philosophical work in the last 200 years.
Yeah,
is what he said.
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think we stand on the cusp of a paradigm shift in the Kuhn kind of understanding.
Oh, yes,
that science and the world kind of often moves in these paradigms. So we could have hundreds of years where we all think in a very similar kind of way until there's enough evidence that kind of builds up like a dam and it just breaks and the whole world changes. We have a different understanding of what the world is. And I think what's playing into that is this kind of desire for a sacramentality. We're all sick of the dead material worldview. We know that doesn't work for us.
Even non-religious people are sick of it.
Do you think that's sort of part of the kind of political turmoil? And
I think that's definitely at play.
It's all playing
100%. It's all playing into that.
This over here, but it's all playing into a bigger ecological system.
Exactly right. And I think science is helping with this, with the rise of physics, like the quantum physics, that we realize that things are far more in flux at the most fundamental level of the material world.
Two particles can be in existence in two different places at the same time.
Exactly right.
One particle, two different places at the same time. And you're like, what?
100%. And on top of that, the way that you attend to them changes what they become.
Which means when I observe something, it shifts.
100%.
It's conscious. Yeah. This is what he's making the argument of.
Yeah.
The material world is in a weird way conscious of our being.
That's right. So that's exactly right. So he would argue that attention is a moral act.
Yeah.
Wow. So the way that you attend to the world is how the world will appear for you.
Yeah.
Now that's not subjectivism, okay? It's just the way that because he would say there is an objective world, and at some point it will push back on you.
Yeah.
So at the moment we live in a consumerist society, and we have viewed that world through our moral act to thinking that we can just do whatever we want with it and just mine it for whatever we want and live off it like it's endless. That's worked for us for about 100 years or more. But we know that objective world is now pushing back on us. We live in climate change. Our attention was wrong. So what he's saying is be very careful how you pay attention to the world. And I think what he's kind of getting at is saying the mechanistic worldview, thinking that the world is just a machine of particles banging against each other that you can map out with certainty, is at the end of its life.
Yeah.
There is a paradigm shift coming. And we're moving back to, hopefully, we would be moving back to this kind of, that the world is organic, that it's in relationship, that it's in flow, and that it's deeply imbued with God. Now the Christian now stands into that gap and says, what do you mean by God?
Yeah.
Because people are saying, there's something at play here that we're not sure what it is. It's kind of like Paul on Mars Hill saying, you know that feeling, you know that what you're hankering for, you know that kind of mystery that's in the world? That's Jesus.
You know that statue that says unknown God?
Yeah.
I know who he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the world that the Christian stands into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, is that
so
sorry,
you
that's,
know who
that's
he
sermon.
is. That's really good. So you know who this God is.
Yeah.
So Iain McGilchrist is making this big argument. He's basically saying that
he opens a space for us to step back into.
That's the gift.
Well, that's the gift,
It's a huge gift.
It's not only him, but other intellectual figures as well. I won't name them, but our listeners probably know who they are, who've opened up a space for Christians to be legitimized, again, even in the intellectual conversations.
Yep.
Which, because a lot of this, when I read this book, I'm like, no duh. I'm like, Christians have believed this forever.
Exactly.
I'm like, and you're just realizing this? And I'm like, I don't understand the hemisphere stuff as much, or the consciousness of materiality and whatever the heck that means. But I can tell you what, the world is deeply mysterious and spiritual, and I would even go as far as say sacramental.
Exactly.
So what for you, this is a leading question because I hope you go somewhere.
Yeah.
What for you is that hard edge of Christianity where you're like, the material and the spiritual are much closer than you realize? It's not a trick question.
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand it. Maybe you want to unpack it for me.
I want to unpack it for you.
Yeah.
So it's Jesus.
Yeah.
So the big moment that was like a watershed moment for me, it's so simple, but it's like the key, if you will, to unlocking what he's kind of intuiting is it's the incarnation of Christ, his death, resurrection, and ultimately Pentecost and the Spirit coming in a very different way in reality than in the past. God's presence filling his church. Yeah. And so that's a big deal. And it's particularly the resurrected body of Jesus is a big deal, because you cannot maintain a materialistic, mechanistic way of looking at the world when you realize that Jesus is a resurrected body, ate, drank, walked, talked, meandered, taught. And this is the body he's still in right now. Yeah. Nothing's changed. Yeah. You know?
I totally agree. I think
so
you're
sacramentality.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So we don't go off into the clouds when we die.
Yeah.
We become Christ in that resurrected sense when we die.
I totally agree. I agree. And this comes back to the question you asked me, like 20 minutes ago. You said, what's it look like? Yeah. And I said, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I think we need to collectively look back to our past in order to be able to look forward. Because, I mean, this reminds me of the iconoclast moment, where we just get rid of all the icons. And what that means is get rid of all the world isn't sacramental anymore. We just need, faith in God. Yeah. And the argument that John Damascus made right then is that, no, the incarnation changes that.
Yeah. God became an image.
Yeah.
In a sense.
For that, and what that means is that that God is deeply committed to the material world. Mm-hmm. And not only is he deeply committed to it, he shows himself to us through it. Yeah. We come to understand who God is through the material world. Yeah. Now it isn't a flat kind of relationship. It's asymmetrical. God is always more than the material world, but he's certainly not devoid of the material world. So, and I think the early church, and I think the history of the church has something to teach us going forward. Mm-hmm. And I think that will mean the way that we think about the church buildings. I think it'll mean about the spaces that we build. I think it will change the way that we structure our weeks. Maybe it'll mean fasting. Maybe it'll mean praying on our knees. I don't know what it will mean, to be honest, because we're so secular, more secular than we think we are.
Yeah.
And it'll change. So we need to look back at what people were doing before the scientific revolution. We need to ask how they saw the world.
Not to romanticize that, to say, I want to go back there. It's like, no. But we left some stuff behind that we need to reclaim.
We left some stuff behind. Yeah. There's a reason why people are streaming back to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, and the Eastern Orthodox Church.
And the Eastern Orthodox Church.
And Pentecostal churches.
Yeah, and Pentecostal, because it has a spiritual element to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, and the Pentecostal churches. What is dying is the churches that just are devoid of that stuff.
Yeah.
They are dying.
Yeah.
So, it will look different than what it did before, but we need to reclaim something.
What do you want?
Yeah, you go for it, man.
Oh, yeah, well, there's a number of things there. I mean, I was sort of thinking part of this journey is I guess that was more of a personal question. What moves, I don't mean to make it personal, but I'm just curious, what moves are you making?
Yeah.
That, because to me it strikes me that we're all going to church.
Yeah.
But how do we today and tomorrow move in this direction?
Yeah.
Exactly. Of letting go of the kind of mechanistic sort of, and as we're saying, I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah.
But that's not a kind of I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm moving towards something, and I'm just interested to know what that might look like for you, because that might help me. Because I don't know too. I mean, and maybe that even I'm answering that question by saying actually we need each other.
Well, yeah, possibly. We've already documented on this podcast you're dabbling in Eastern Orthodoxy a couple times. Has that continued?
Yeah, it hasn't. I mean, I can't make it along to the Eastern Orthodox Church as much as I would like to.
Because you go to church somewhere else.
Yeah, I go to church somewhere else, and but
it's not to say that's the answer either. It's
not. I mean, and as you can see, I'm not Eastern Orthodox. I haven't made the move back there, and for many reasons, and I don't think you have to. But it's more my interest is saying, how are you guys seeing the world? Like, what do you see that I don't see?
Yeah.
What are you paying attention to, which I'm not paying attention to? And they pay attention to the body, about how we move in the world, the material world itself, that God is imbued in it, all those kind of things.
It's like you've got a map, and you're like, this is my map. Can I see your map?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What's that over there?
Yeah, what are you doing there?
Yeah.
And why are you doing that?
Oh, it's because this is what the train looks like. Oh, I never noticed that before.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's made me go back to the Bible and say, oh, let me read it for a minute through an Eastern Orthodox view.
Yeah.
And go, oh, okay, I can see something different now because I'm paying attention in a different way.
Yeah.
So just be careful how you pay attention. So, I love this from Paul. This is what Paul writes in the first chapter of Romans.
Is that a Bible or is that
This is a Bible. This is New Testament.
Nice.
From the creation of the cosmos, which is all of the created world, including heaven, but all the created world, so not God, but all the created world, from the creation of the cosmos, his invisible things are clearly described and understood from the things that are made. So
is that Colossians?
That is Romans.
That's Romans. That's the start of chapter 1, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. That's where
that's Romans.
He begins his whole big argument for 11 chapters with that one sentence.
Exactly right.
And
we are embedded in a material world, and what we do in the material world, including our own bodies, matters. Because if you're doing something that doesn't show forth the image of God, that doesn't help us to understand who God is, then you've missed what God is doing in the world. And it has to do with what we do with the material world and our bodies. It's not just rationalistic. It's not a map. It's the way you move through the terrain.
Yeah, because this is why I love metaphors and analogies.
Yeah.
Because you can say that this is my map, right? These are my beliefs.
These are my beliefs. How are you?
But then there's your legs.
100%. You say, these are my beliefs. I got it all sorted out.
Yeah.
Systematics, man, I got it down. Yeah, okay. How are you moving through the world?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not very well.
That's my question.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
I've got these beliefs, and I'm going, so what?
Exactly.
Well, that's what you're trying to do, Graeme, with your students.
Yeah, I'm going,
so what?
You're saying, exactly.
100%.
Look, I'm not being knocking because I believe in the vicarious humanity of Christ. That's nice. What does that mean?
So what you need to say is, here are my beliefs. Let me show you what they look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it? That question of what does it look like?
This is not an either-or problem.
No.
It's not an either-or problem. But what it is putting it back to be able to see the whole again.
It's integration.
So what we've done again is the materialistic worldview. We've put everything into parts. So we've got my beliefs here and the way I act in the world. Those two don't necessarily have to come together. That is bollocks. It's not a biblical worldview.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not.
So I think McGilchrist kind of shakes us up, and he does it. The great thing, the reason why this is, the best work in 200 years is it is meticulously referenced.
Yeah.
And it's meticulous how he goes across physics, science, biology, religion, math. It's all, he kind of just lays it all out. And he says there's something big going on.
He
here.
quotes a lot of early church fathers and even the New Testament from time to time.
100%.
Yeah. It's way more than you'd expect for a philosophical book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way more. Because he's making a grand argument, right? That's what he's trying to do. He's making a grand argument. I'm surprised it's not even bigger, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
It's actually because he...
Have you done the whole 2 volumes?
Most of it.
Yeah.
I haven't quite finished the second volume.
Because he really just skims the surface. As much as you're hoping he goes deep, he can't.
Yeah.
Because he's shifting the metaphor by which we live by, right?
Yep.
And in doing that, you can't, if you need to cover everything.
Yeah.
Like almost like an Aristotle or a Plato.
That's
like
right.
They covered everything because they could.
That's right.
But you can't go very deep if you do that. You've got to make statements for other people.
True.
Anyway.
True. No, that's exactly right. And the one thing I love about McGilchrist, I think it brings us back to prayer. Mm-hmm. That prayer becomes really, really important. And I think, and I come back to, I can't remember the early theologian that said this, but the theologian is the one who prays.
Yeah.
I love
Evagrius, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
There's no theology without prayer.
Yeah.
Don't sit at your desk and just work it out with a pencil and a pen or your computer. Theology begins in prayer and it ends in prayer. That's so deeply embedded in the world.
So just to kind of bring this thing full circle, because you got to go at 11, Graeme?
I've got to go before 11, so over coaching.
In like 10 minutes?
Yeah, that'll be the max.
All right, max. All right, because it's so easy. Like that theologians pray quote is so, like, that's just like the mic drop quote. When you gave that to us a couple of years ago, I was like, man, but what does it actually mean? What it means is, like, when I preach, I'm filtering everything through my ministry, okay? That's just my experience.
Yeah.
When I prepare for a sermon, I know you should pray in it, but I'm like, man, the things, like, I've had enough experience as a preacher to this point to realize that the real crap sermons that I give are some of the most important sermons for people.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
Because it's actually the sacramentality of the world sense of, like, no, God is actually encountering people, Joey, sometimes despite you.
Yeah.
Not to spite you,
brutal,
but despite you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And so what I'm realizing is if there's going to be, like, if I would like, not to formalize it, but if I sense that, this Sunday or this event or this thing that people are going to gather at, which is important, is going to be important, then, like, preachers pray. Mm-hmm. It's like, ministry leaders pray. It's like, benevolence pastors pray.
Yep.
It's just like, well, no, duh, but it's like, it's in the doing that we forget that the doing is praying.
Yep.
Because not that you are trying to be like, God is not like the gods in Greek mythology or in Roman mythology or Norse mythology, where it's like, I need to give this sacrifice to God so that he's on my side in my favor for this battle or for this thing. It's like, that's not how God works. Yep. It's not an input-output thing. He's not mechanistic like that.
Yep, that's right.
But in some mysterious way, he deeply honors the postures of our heart.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's a sense of humility of, like, I can do all the great things and prepare and exegete and deliver this thing and practice it 100 times. But I'm like, man, there can be no spirit in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
that's right.
Theologians pray.
Yep.
Insert any vocation.
100%.
Vocation, pray.
Yeah.
Can I just flag something?
Yeah.
We need to do a podcast that talks about prayer.
Yeah,
and maybe we should get you back, because I think
we should do one on prayer.
Prayer is we have our own metaphors in mind, and you just mentioned posture, and to be honest, when I was pastoring, I mean, that'd be the one thing I have probably struggled most of my life with.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is prayer?
Yeah.
What does that look like, and how do I, if we talk about it's really important, but we're not talking about what does the terrain look like here?
Yeah, that's
I think that would be a great discussion.
That would be a wonderful discussion.
It would be great. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So before the end of the year, Jonathan, would you come back?
Let's do it. Let's do one on prayer.
And really wrestle with it. Wrestle with what that may look like different for different people. But I think we can look back to the tradition.
Yeah, that's right.
And the great fathers to learn something there.
Yep.
But I'm curious there, and
that'd be awesome.
Plotting around that space for a little while.
That'd be great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks
Thank
for being
you.
here.
Man, it's good to be back with you guys.
Yeah, good to be with you.